Yes, artificial intelligence is optimizing economies. However, there are certain negative aspects in marketing, supply chain management, and the overall economic production function that we need to discuss. Welcome to the latest video of MHP Consultancy. You're in for a fact-based discussion with someone who has spent his entire life in information technology and computer sciences, and there are very few people who know more about AI and IT in general all over the world. As a marketing and management consulting firm, we want to raise these couple of points that the AI is causing disruption in the market. Number one, hyper-personalization by marketeers. Number two, predictive analytics. Number three, AI-generated content. Number four, automation of repetitive tasks. Number five, evolving search engine optimization. What is happening that is a bit concerning for us is that there is job displacement and labor market polarization because of the very nature of these tasks. These are being done by artificial intelligence in a way that is much, much better than any human has ever done. What will happen is that this will increase inequality. How? You will find out in the video coming up. Then we need your feedback and comments in how it is affecting the privacy concerns that we just mentioned and the market concentrations. So let's dive directly into the video. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a short podcast with Edward De Jong. Edward is currently the Vice President of Voice Carrier. He's the VP of Engineering over there, and he has had a very long career in IT. Without further ado, I shall introduce Edward De Jong, and he will tell something about himself. Then, obviously, we'll move on to talk about IT and artificial intelligence in general in today's business landscape. Over to you, Edward. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good evening. I started with computers when I was 16, and our high school in Pasadena, California, which is a famous town. It holds Caltech and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Anyway, Pasadena got a surplus IBM punch card computer that did 100 instructions per second, and I learned to program in machine language and Fortran on that machine. And then after mastering that machine, we went on to a few of my friends went on to program at Jet Propulsion Laboratory and then Caltech, and then I went to MIT where I graduated with a bachelor's degree. And I've been working in software now for this is my 54th year of programming. So I've been through every generation of computer from mainframe to
Uh,
mini computer to workstation to
wow.
desktop and then to mobile. And then, of course, in the context of voice carrier, I have worked in client server applications, which is kind of a combination of mobile and desktop and dedicated devices and server computers where they're all tied together in a network to produce a useful service, which for the last over 10 years has been, SIP telephony. SIP is the nickname for the kind of voice over internet standard that allows devices to talk to one another. It's an industry standard that's open, and there are over 100 manufacturers making devices that connect with SIP. And so when you're talking about selecting a telephone provider, they all use the same standard, SIP. And then the only question is, what are the features of the equipment they offer, and what are the software features they offer? And of course, what is the business model of the company that you're dealing with?
Fantastic. Edward, I must say that as always, you're very articulate. So very impressive CV. Thoroughly, you explained it, thoroughly well. And I must appreciate that, MIT and some of the things I could not even understand, like the sort of computers that you were talking about, because I'm from the current age of, where there is a machine learning and supervised and unsupervised learning. So let me, we will get to the voice carrier technicalities in a moment or so for our audience. But as we discussed, like, what do you think the current scenario of overall technology in the world is, information technology, and specifically speaking, with the pace of growth that artificial intelligence is actually seeing? For example, there are various thought leaders like Mo Goddard, Jeffrey Hinton. If you listen and or read them, you are like baffled. You're like, okay, is nobody paying attention? For example, from autonomous weapon to generative AI. For example, even like the last week, we did a short tutorial where primarily it was about marketing, how to market brands or even thoughts with artificial intelligence. But what we did in that was we used various social media platforms to promote both of the American election candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So, it goes on to show, and in that video, we, gave examples. For example, when it wrote about Perplexity.ai, when it wrote about Kamala Harris, it just went on praising and telling, us in detail, in like, intricate details, how her policies are better than Donald Trump's. And then when we gave it a prompt to promote Donald Trump, it just, it just said that, the Democrats are just the worst people in the world and Republicans and Donald Trump is the best person. So it's not only like, the existential threat, because, if AI will get a task, then it will make subtask for itself. For example, any task you give it to it, the first obstacle that it will face will be humans. That I need to, maybe remove humans from the value chain, and then I can achieve that main task. So the second point is that, like, the diminishing of the thin line between reality and fiction, truth and falsehood, and fake news and everything. So in context of all that, what do you think, where have we come, where are we going with artificial intelligence? How do we take control of it? What do you think about that?
Well, there's a paper that just got released this week, and it shows that the biases. I read it on Twitter. The headline of the paper and the synopsis. Fundamentally, what it shows is that if you train an AI with bias, then that bias is embedded in it, and it would be the same as raising a child that had a particular, if you instill a particular belief system in your child, it's going to absorb that. And in the case of our AI, since it does not learn any new information, it's trained once and then it is static.
Hmm.
And so whatever you put in and then you tune it, since all of the AIs are coming out of Google, which is 90% liberal, 95%, it's one of the most liberal companies in the world. It has a
Typical
specific,
Californian liberalism.
yes. I mean, it has that embedded in it, and there's nothing objective about it because it was trained and then tuned to not be neutral. So there was someone has a dial, and the thing will, if you let AI scan all the available information, it will be moderately objective. Still, the information you're training it on is very liberal. If you go to the New
Mhm.
York Times and Newsweek and you take all public magazines, journalists are very liberal, certainly for the last
Yes.
20 years. If you went back to the 1800s, you'd find they were very conservative. But because journalists used to be a low class occupation just above working class. But journalists in the last 20 years have all gone to Yale or Harvard or whatever. They're all from Ivy League
Those
schools.
institutions that promote the neo liberal or neoclassical, like neoclassical economics and neoliberal policies in general.
Well, the computer is a parrot, a super intelligent parrot, and it's
Mhm.
digested 100 million pages of knowledge. It's read every legal case, so it has an unbelievable amount of information in its that it's digested and then put into a blender. So it has tremendous capabilities to do legal work. And then the generative AI, of course, is devastating certain professions. The value of being a board illustrator, paper, making a magazine illustration, that profession is gone
Mm.
overnight. I mean, just this last year, the ability to generate a picture of publishable quality now exceeds the skill of the average artist. They used to make anywhere from 50 to $100 an hour and they worked in advertising and they did part-time work and they scrounged together a living. All of those people are, except the very highest level creative people, are out of a job because
Mm.
a person saying, "Hey, I only want to pay $50 for an illustration," if if a regular illustrator would take 20 hours to do that, that is so far below minimum wage, it is approaching slavery. So $50, you can get one for less than $50 if you use Microsoft Copilot right now in the introductory phase where they're giving away the AI. They won't give it away forever. They're getting us hooked on it. And once they've put all the illustrators out of business,
Exactly.
then
What they
they
did
will.
with Midjourney and initially ChatGPT as well.
Yeah. So, but we're in the destruction phase where this technology is coming in. And because it's free, I mean, $200 billion has been invested, according to some pundit I saw on an interview this year in AI equipment and staffing. That's a lot of money. That's more than we put into the Apollo space program, inflation adjusted. So this is a huge effort.
So
And
you see,
like I
I
said,
have
it's
this.
having devastating effect. It's going to also affect not just illustrators, it affects
uh
songwriters
Yes,
because the music
artists.
UDO can generate a song that is, I would say, B minus. And
So
and some of the lyrics that it produces are hilarious.
I
So
I
yeah.
need to budge in over here because you are just scratching the surface of the iceberg, even I would say, because all of these things that you mentioned, I was just researching them. Then there are like hundreds of thousands of legal cases, lawsuits on companies like OpenAI and Anthropic that they are actually doing plagiarism on a massive scale. They are putting like hundreds of years of work of artists, writers, singers, and like even researchers, scientific researchers, and they're just plagiarizing it. They're just regurgitating it in a different form, and then they're claiming that there is artificial intelligence. So all of the things that you mentioned, we shall, make a series of podcasts. We'll get the feedback of viewers, and we'll select a topic maybe each week or 10 days, and then we'll talk about that, and we'll invite others as well. I was just reading The Age of AI by Henry Kissinger, Eric Schmidt, and Daniel Huttenlocher. And even in this book, mostly the positive aspects of AI are discussed. But the thing is that with the social political system that humans have devised as of now, the problem is that AI definitely will produce value, but it the main point is the Achilles heel is that who will it produce the value for? It is for those big companies, the capitalists. You were mentioning the other days that all these people in the global south who are actually learning programming these days, they are fools. Why? Because in 5 years or so, there will be no job left for like technical people who the people who know to code. Recently, I was discussing this with another tech maestro. He was saying the same thing. He was talking about XAI. There's a tool called XAI, and he was telling me like the most of the jobs of product developers and the SQA engineers, they're already gone. Once again, coming to the point that the developments of AI are just way too much for any institution, let alone a couple of people to grasp. So if I get your final comment on that, and then we'll move to what voice carrier is and what they have been doing for the past 1.5 decade, that would be an optimal use of our time. So one more comment on general comment on your thoughts and observations on AI, then let's move on to VC. How about that?
Well, they're not going to stop it. They will never be able to sue to stop it. It's the same thing that happened with Napster and music sharing, where the MP3
Yes,
downloads
Napster.
destroyed the recorded music industry.
Yes.
And
Very prime
gave up
example.
on recorded music, which was a mistake because the Spotify streaming services pay less than a tenth of the money in royalties towards the musicians as a group. And so it was a mistake for the industry to destroy the connection between the music generators and the audience and create this intermediary called Spotify and other streaming services. And the same thing with AI. They're not going to be able to stop it. All of the previous art is going to be uh, stolen and without attribution.
Yes,
And
yes.
so every painter and every artist that has ever lived is going to have their art scanned and
Mm,
put into and they will see elements of their art in all of the generated things. And, and that is just a fact. And that we are witnessing the destruction of multiple professions. I think it actually has a great deal more potential impact in the legal industry than people
mhm,
realize, because
mhm.
lawyers are already using AI themselves to generate their pleadings. And if I walk up to ChatGPT right now and say, please give me a summons for a session court case in California, it will correctly format and title that page. And and because it's correctly formatted, it has no spelling mistakes, and this is something a legal secretary, which costs a lot of money, or a paralegal would do. So
I
it's
would
already having
I
devastating
would like
effect.
to raise a point over here. Sorry for disturbing you. If I impersonate you and I go on and, do a crime, then even if I do not do a crime, even if I'm just going about my business impersonating you, that will be like almost a felony. I can go to jail for that. But like as I mentioned in the previous video, what I've been showing people is that I use perplexity.ai, which is primarily a generative AI model similar to ChatGPT, but much better and cheaper. So when I post those texts on Quora, like for example, Quora, it's a question and answer platform. I go over there, I copy paste the answer, a post from Quora into Perplexity and ask it to write an answer. And it writes such a human looking answer that the person who has millions of views, he's an author, not only he replies to that comment saying that okay, you raised some genuine points and all, he asks me for much more feedback. I've shown this in my video. I can show in this, even in this edit, I can put a screenshot of that. So that is called impersonation. And with the current ads that I got to see, where AI is just making old pictures move. For example, if there is a dead relative of yours, you can have it hug you. You just upload the picture and have it do anything that you want. Again, these are just minor examples. Another video like in this book, The Age of AI, there is an example. If autonomous weapons are allowed to, be engaged in like Iran-Israel war is going on. There's a war in Ukraine. There are, flashpoints like Taiwan, China is a flashpoint. South Korea, North Korea is a flashpoint. If AI, gets utilized, autonomous weapon to get utilized just once, it's haywire from there. So
Well,
it,
I'm not going to talk about military implications of AI. I'm just
uh,
strictly in the commercial world, and that's my domain of expertise. All I'm saying,
wonderful. Honest.
AI is having a revolutionary effect already. It's mostly negative in the sense that it's causing massive job losses in professions which previously were thought to be safe, because we thought that, oh, low-end jobs like mechanical things and repairing, doing dishes or cleaning clothes, and it's actually the robots haven't done anything practical at that level, and they're strictly working in the intellectual, what I call the paper shuffling universe. So the
Correct.
legal people, the artists, the creators, the writers, the poets, all of those people and all those jobs which were considered creative and requiring high education are being destroyed. And the jobs of painting your house, fixing your plumbing, installing electrical work.
Mm,
So I call this entire process the revenge of the trades.
The revenge
Trades,
of the
jobs,
trade.
revenge of the trades. Trades, tradesmen. So
Got it.
the
Got it.
electricians,
Tradesmanship.
plumbers, and gardeners and arborists, the people who work in the physical farmers, the people who work in the physical universe have their final revenge, and that actually the world is completely flipped and the intellectual workers are being devalued because that work can be shipped anywhere in the world, and every
Hmm.
intellectual work, especially in programming, you're competing against Ukrainians, you're competing against Latin Americans, and Indians are have been outsourced. They've been doing the outsourcing for over 20 years. Bangalore, the whole city is based
Exactly.
on that outsourcing technology,
Same
practice.
as Shenzhen.
Yeah, Shenzhen is actually electronics fabrication, and they have suffered a great deal because the, we're nearing the end of gadgets because the cell phone absorbed all the other gadgets. The
Hmm.
cell phone ate the clock radio and the Walkman
The
and
calculator,
the phone. Yeah, every tape recorders, all the devices that Sony
cameras.
Corporation
Yes.
sell. They used to have a
Hmm.
hundred different electronic devices, pocket recorders. There are 100 things.
Microphones, you name it. Alarm clocks.
I mean, it's a compass, it's a map, it's a
Hmm.
this, and
Everything.
now the latest iPhone. Uh, People don't even know that the latest iPhone from 14 and 15 incorporates satellite radio. My God, that used to be a $2,000 handset that you had to rent, an extremely expensive service. I rented once in on a trip to Brazil so that I could talk no matter where I was, where cell phone service wasn't available. Well,
Hmm.
satellite communication is now built in
How
at
times have changed.
for free. Apple hasn't even charged for it yet,
Hmm.
which is amazing because that used to be hundreds of dollars a month, and you paid $2 a minute for talking on this satellite. And Apple is now primarily using it for emergency purposes, but it is, like I said, the cell phone has eaten all the other devices,
Hmm.
and the AI technology is eating the intellectual workers' jobs with like a wood chipper. It's just shredding them left and right.
Well, let's hope for the best and prepare for the worst. Now, let's move on to your current role as the Vice President of Engineering in Voice Carrier. Would
Yeah.
you like to describe Voice Carrier a bit, or your job role that what you've been doing over there?